Okay, let's get started. Welcome CS26265. Before we start, let's see how many people are actually coming from InfoSec Master degree and also. So how many people from MS InfoSec Master at Georgia Tech? Okay, not many. Oh, interesting. What about undergrad? Oh, okay. This is an interesting mix. We haven't decided how we're gonna evaluate this. I would say two different groups. There are some PhD students as well. You don't have to worry too much about. We're gonna do a little bit about shuffling at the end, so that you can assign some grade per group, so you guys are not competing based on your background. Okay. This is what we're gonna do this semester, because the course is listed not just as CS6265, but there is the course number assigned for the undergrad class, right? How many people have CTF experience? Okay. How seriously you guys are competing? Yeah?
Pretty serious.
Very serious? Okay. Okay. Okay, sounds good. You have a dedicated team in the cyber, the army, or?
I mean, I've done individual ones and most ones.
Okay. Okay, sounds good. So this semester we're gonna learn about the basics of binary exploitation. So it's a very common, I would say, most difficult challenges you can see from CTF. Everything is a CTF style here. You can consider this entire course as a semester-wide CTF event. So every week we're gonna assign you some challenges, so you're gonna solve. But at the same time, there is some academic component. For example, we organize all these CTF challenges following some historic events in I would say, security work. So, starting from 30 years ago, there's no protection mechanism in the buffer overflow, for instance. You can do very naive attack, but over time, you're gonna start adding interesting mitigations on top, so they become more difficult and difficult. But we're gonna dedicate the first 2 weeks of this course to catch up your basic tools and basics of reading binaries and get familiar yourself with the assembly as well. So this course, again, is all about CTF, but I'll say, let me make it bigger. So this is a special type of course. It's not the regular course we're gonna teach everything to you. You guys should learn how to learn, mostly in the hands-on manner. But we're gonna provide all detailed guidance in terms of tutorials and videos and whatnot. But I really hope that you guys learn how to be, how to learn this type of course even after the semester ends, right? And we're gonna focus on the reverse engineering and binary exploitations. If you see CTF event, there's so many different type of challenges, even crypto these days, and smart contracts and whatnot. But in this particular course, we're gonna focus on the binary exploitation. And you often see those type of challenges in the binary events, which we consider most difficult part of the CTF. And this is designed for seniors and above. Some of the freshmen is already very good at solving those challenges as well. But it's all about your background, the low-level background in system software, for example, operating systems and system programming, and some of knowledge in architecture. If you're not familiar with reading low-level languages like assembly, it's completely fine. We have some time to catch up those ideas. And we're gonna review some of those in this week and next week. We really promote the activity like CTF as part of this course. And this is one of the image that one of the photo we captured in the DEFCON CTF finals. DEFCON is the most competitive CTF event. Not just us, there are so many Georgia Tech students and all people around the world are participating in the final. There are a sequence of events for qualifications and whatnot, but we are so proud to be part of the final. And in fact, at that year, we actually won the CTF. There are two different types of CTF. One is Jeopardy style. It's pretty, puzzle-like event. Because of the nature, it's pretty scalable. It's just a list of challenges. You browse and solve each challenge one by one, based on your interest. But the typical finer, like DEFCON CTF, they actually attack each other in the live systems. There's a certain services they're running. You have to find the vulnerability, write the exploitations against them, but at the same time, you have to fix them through binary patching. Oftentimes, you have some source code that you can touch in your hand, but most of the time, you have to find the bugs in binary and patch them in the binary form. In this course, we're gonna mainly focus on Jeopardy-like style. As part of this course, we're gonna talk about that later. We're gonna have in-class CTF as well. This one-day event. Even that in that event, we're gonna focus more on the Jeopardy style CTF. But this later part is pretty fun because you can see how other people actually exploit. You can capture those network packets and do analysis. And there are a lot of interesting runtime components in that type. But again, we're gonna mainly focus on like solving challenges. We believe this provides more, I would say, safe sandbox for all of you, so that you can actually solve those challenges by yourself. There are a lot of topics we're gonna cover, starting from reverse engineering, and again, binary exploitation such as buffer overflow. And we're gonna learn how to find bugs. But in this particular class, we're gonna do less emphasis on the bug finding. Typically in the real world setting, this is more challenging part. If you find a vulnerability, writing exploitation is a relatively easy job. Relatively, it's not that difficult, very difficult. It's relatively easy, easier than just finding bugs. But here in this course, we're gonna provide more or less, hey, these are the bugs. In fact, you can easily trigger the bugs, but how to find the exploitation against this particular vulnerability. And in order to do this, you also have to understand how to do memory forensic when program crash, for instance. And at the end of the day, you're gonna learn lots of tools relevant in this field, so that you can be a, I'll say, middle-level player, medium-level player in the CTF competition, any type of CTF. After this course, I think this is good basis that you can accelerate after. In total, we have 9 different labs. When we say labs, it's one unit that we are using in this course. Typically, one lab consists of either 1 week or 2 weeks, depending on the difficulty. And one lab has corresponding tutorial. So you're going to do the tutorial and solve the lab every week. We have a very regular structure of this. But on top of these regular labs, we have 2 big events. In fact, these are so big that we even consider 2 lab worth of points. So one big event we're going to do is in-class CTF. Almost at the end of this semester, right after Thanksgiving, we're going to get together and do 24-hour CTF event in class. We're going to find a big room. But here, not only we prepare as a TAs and instructor, and you're gonna also prepare some of the CTF challenges. So that we're gonna open up these challenges to people in Georgia Tech and Atlanta area. So we're gonna invite some of the folks from Emory and Morehouse. And there's a award. Our lab donate, likely. This is 1,000, actually likely more award. We're gonna give it to the top performing team. And then the second event is an organization-wise competition. It's organized by NSA, and maybe 8 years ago, 7 years ago, we coordinate together with NSA to match the timeline of our course. So at the end of this class, you are more than, I would say, capable of solving NSF corporate code challenges. Probably many people think it's much easier, but it covers slightly different subjects as well, like crypto. But in terms of reverse engineering and binary exploitations, they're pretty much primitive in terms of these. So this is the previous photo that we took. Because it's 24 events, it's chaos. You guys team up, you're gonna compete each other, like rap music. We're gonna give you at least some of the weird, I would say, feelings of participating real world. And then we're gonna have a big ceremony. Luckily, we won NSA Corporate Challenge many times, in fact, including last year. We also won 2021 as well. So this is because this is organization-wise competitions. In fact, NSA folks actually come here and do the celebrations right after Corporate Challenge. Not sure how many people actually watch the ceremony, but in fact, if you won this, these are typically 6 or 7 different tasks in this NSA Corporate Challenge. If you proceed to the last, you will be hired by NSA, right? Period. But there's a nationality constraint, but this is separate topic. But you are more than fine for the job. Right? They actually come here, they're using this one for the recruiting purpose. But what's interesting about this challenge is that they mimic those, I'll say, CTF events and their scenario behind the storyline behind the scene. Very similar to the real world event, so that you can see their day-to-day jobs through these events as well. It will be fun at the end. This is the weekly structure of your lab. So given a one topic, we're gonna have one lab, and each lab consists of many different challenges, which is sub-unit of our class. In this Friday gathering, we're gonna cover one subject that we can discuss. Before we discuss, we're gonna quickly review some of the past challenges that we did, and then we're gonna have a optional recitation for that particular week's subjects and labs. And we highly recommend to participate here. Fresh. Yeah. We reserve some of the seminar price at Coda building. Unfortunately, it's not here. So Coda in the tech square, you can easily find this Coda building. We have 2 recitations. If you find yourself like stuck, please come to those recitations. And you can consider this recitation prices to talk to each other, not limited to TAs, right? Just come here and just talk and collaborate with each other. How many people who cannot make one of these 2 time slots on Tuesday and Wednesday? Good. We don't have to reorganize. And then typically on Thursday, we have deadline. So you have to submit those challenges and some of the write-up. We're going to talk about what do you mean by write-up. So we have a flag that you have to gather. This is basically proof that you actually solved the challenges, and a little bit about your write-up that basically describe how you actually achieve and exploit the EEU. So in this particular meeting, gathering, we first want to talk about the past challenges if you have questions, and we're going to cover this week's topic, and we have a in-class tutorial. This is very important part of this class. We have a 1 hour worth of tutorial that we prepared for you guys, and at the end of this class, we have 3 hours assigned to us. Probably we're gonna spend about an hour for me talking, and then another hour dedicated for tutorial. So you should bring your laptops, and then you're gonna solve tutorial here, and we have TA joining together with us and individually help you, each one of you. And there is a flag associated with this tutorial as well. You get the flag and submit to our submission site, and you're done. If you already complete the tutorial, more than welcome you to leave the class. Right? A little bit about course grading. 100% left, no midterms, no final. So our class will end right before the final, earlier than others. But again, right before the final, we have 1 day peak event. Then you're gonna spend entire week. We have 9 labs. It's a regular basis. We have 3 lab worth of events, 2 lab worth of CTF event, and 1 lab worth of NSA code preparation. In terms of scoring, it's a little complicated, but you're gonna see this one is a little bit trivial after solving a couple of again, each lab consists of 2 things: challenges and tutorial. So we have 10 challenges. Basically, you can see it's a problem, right? And you have to get flag out of 10 challenges and tutorial, and each challenge is worth 20 points. So at the end of the every class, you're gonna have about 220 points, right? Preview. But more or less, the tutorial is given to you. If you follow every single step of the tutorial, you're gonna get the 20 points. Okay? But for the challenges, not only you have to provide the flag, you have to provide a write-up associated, including the exploits, so that we can cross-check each other. And if you're stuck, we can also help through the write-up as well. And there's some bonus point. First 2 top players who solve each challenge fast, quick, we're gonna give a blood the first and second blood. So 2 points for the quickest server and 1 point for the second. And we also prepare some hints. So if you're stuck in the challenges after spending quite a lot of time, you can actually open up the hint. In our submission side, almost every challenge has 1 or 2 hints. We very carefully prepare so that you can open up. Whenever you click, then you're gonna have -1 point per hint, right? But it's very useful. It's kind of interesting trade-off. And because we have a 1 week of time for challenges, we're gonna give extra week as a late days. It means if you solve after the deadline, we're gonna give you 50%. So in other words, if you solve 1 challenge after the deadline, we're gonna give you 10 points instead of 20. Clear? Any questions? Yeah.
To the first and second labs, happen to the first challenge itself.
Every challenges.
So for the first week itself.
Yeah, first week as well. Not during the first week. Sorry, not during the first week. There's a warm-up phase. And, yeah.
The first challenge mentioned like blowing up bombs and getting minus points.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that later. Any more questions? Yes.
Do you need to write the write-up in the tutorial?
No, you don't have to write. Yeah. You just get the flag. We're gonna talk about what is flag later, right? It contains a lot of interesting information that we can cross-check with guys. So that do not attempt to copy each other's. We know how it works. And there's a submission site you have to check, and you're gonna be there all the time. And you can find the links in our course website, right? So, final grade. Sometimes we adjust. We typically bump up some of the students in the boundary, but this is common expectation. We are not expecting you to solve all the challenges at all, right? These are the extra challenges that give you more freedom and what to solve, what to not. In other words, the early labs are easy. First 5 labs are way easier, than the later. So it's a good idea to solve the first, all of the challenges in the first lab so that you have more time in the later. It gives more flexibility. We are expecting about 7 challenges per lab, so you can consider 3 extra challenges you can solve, right? And typically, I'll say typically, we have more than 50% of student delay, right? Because we give a lot of opportunity to catch up. For example, if you couldn't, because it's absolute bar, right, threshold, you know you're close to A and B ahead of time, so that you kind of have a more chance to get more points later and adjust. But these are typical expectation of how the course we expect about at least 40% of students should get A out of this class in the West engineering. And if everyone solves more than those expectations, you're gonna get A. But if we see lower number of students in the A category, we're gonna adjust it. But it never happened. It didn't happen in the last 10 years. It's not gonna happen this year. Likely, you can see the inflation of the score because of all these hinting systems and is well guided. Right? You don't have to worry too much about it. But one caveat: if you don't submit anything in the lab, at least one, right? We have again nine labs. If you didn't solve anything, if you skip the entire labs, right, you're gonna get that. So at least you have to do tutorials and a couple of challenges every day. So even if you have a higher score in the beginning, do not skip entirely. Right? Any questions? Yes?
The challenges which you did, are they similar to the one we find in the
That's a great question. Nowadays, you cannot find such a box in many places. We're gonna talk about buffer overflow on stack in 3 weeks. This is the simplest form of the vulnerability that happened about 35 or 40 years ago. And nowadays, basic tools and compiler are doing pretty good job. Although you often see those, of course, it's like embedded systems, IoT devices, all over the places, but still, we have good toolings and ecosystem nowadays so that we eliminate most of them. But the fundamental idea behind those bugs are still the same. And in particular, the exploit technique that we're going to discuss in the later part of the semester are real, like return-oriented programming and heap overflows. Or these are very popular type of vulnerability you're going to still see in the latest exploit, right? And every year, each organization, each party, like Microsoft, Google, and Apple, they put devices together. These are up-to-date devices, and let hacker hack. Right? This is latest device. You only have a remote access. Right? For example, browsing a URL in web browser, and they do the competitions. And attacker actually exploit the latest update version of Mac and Safari and whatnot. They are still using return-oriented programming to bypass. Although they have more advanced mitigations like hardware assisted one, endpoint authentications and whatnot. But still, these fundamental ideas still stay the same. So how to exploit them, their exploitation. Because the computer architecture is exactly the same. It's just a memory, right? And there's some tweaks about what is the permissions on what area we can execute, what area we can read. But in fact, this is a flat memory space we have to deal with. So the commodity architecture we have, like ARM, x86, and whatnot, these are all, including RISC-V, these are all, I would say, suffer from those fundamental problems. Again, this is an online competition. You're going to see how many other people are solving challenges like in this way. And we can even have a scoreboard so that how you proceed and how other people proceed in online fashions. In fact, someone got stressed out about those competitions, competitive nature of this class. But again, at the end of the day, everything is absolute scoring, right? You don't have to worry too much about. And first and second blood, you can consider it honor, not a actual scores. It's just a 1 and 2 point, right? So major point is per challenge, not the first and second. But someone care about those small numbers. If you pile up this number, you can see how many first blood you can do with the odd number. Okay, it's pretty interesting. There are lots of tips for this class. We highly recommend to study in groups. If you can find close friends, that's great. You guys more than welcome to discuss, but do not share the exploit and any code. You can discuss about the idea, but writing by your hand actually make it very different, right? Do yourself, but you're more than welcome to discuss the idea. And please come to the recitation that we organize and use this space as a gathering for your team. And you have to understand your time budget, right? we know certain amount of course hour dedicated to here, but according to our survey, many people spend more than 20 hours in class. We are not encouraging that, although I'm encouraging, but not encouraging. But do not spend too much time on those. But our job is to make sure that you guys actually see, do the challenges, spend some time learning about this course. This is my job, but other professor has other job too, right? Because I do my best in my part, but you can adjust your time budget so that spend some time in the other courses as well. We also organize challenges in very specific order. Sometimes they're not dependent on each other, but the idea that we try to educate you through the challenge proceed accordingly. So you have to solve from the challenge 1 to challenge 10. So it's okay to jump here and there, but it's not a good idea in general. Right? And first 2 weeks again is very important time. If you're not familiar with these tools and stuff, take time to learn as much as possible. And this will be very essential tool that you actually need, and you're gonna keep using in your careers and whatnot too, including some of the editing stuff, right? Editing Python and Debugger as well. And we'll not just teach Debugger, we're gonna do static tools like IDA and Jira. We're gonna talk about all these tools in detail, right? In first 2 weeks. Again, this is another important policy. Every year we're gonna see some of the cheating, right? The boundary between cheating and collaboration is really hard, right? But whenever you do cheat, you probably know, right? If anything unclear, just talk to us. And whenever you collaborate, just write down collaborators' names in your write-up so that we can actually take this one as consideration when we do the cross-check. In fact, we have file of submissions last 10 years, right? So we can easily cross-check each other's. But particularly, do not search, although it's not highly encouraged. Some people upload their solutions in the GitHub, but do not try to search. We always look out for those type of release. But it really hurt the future colleagues at Georgia Tech, so don't do that, right? Whenever you do, we're gonna find you out and make sure you're gonna get F, right? Don't do it. And we know how to make it disable. Okay. I think we also searched this year. Could you search again this year and see if any public release on those? And these are our team. Our team has good CTF experience in the past and helped organize, offer this class many times. So these are very experienced TAs and hackers in our group, and they're doing research in system and security area. So you're gonna get a lot of help from our TAs. Could you say hi? There's Silve and Fabian.
This is my fifth time TA. And Fabian and also ECC and also James on the
So they probably know what you're gonna ask. Okay. After the fifth time, the questions are pretty typical, right? But don't forget they're very experienced, so you can get lots of help from them. So do you guys have any other questions so far? Also, well, there is online discussion channel, like have discussions, and we organize those discussions per labs, so you can post your questions. But we highly recommend you to answer others as well. Sometimes TA cannot answer those every single day, right? But if you spot some questions you can answer, feel free to answer. And oftentimes, whenever we see some of the good answers, we're gonna give extra points for them. So everything based on how you respond and proactively participate in the discussion. And send the email as a last usual. This is the slowest channel you can approach us. But if something doesn't fit into those categories, feel free to send. We're gonna do our best to respond. But online channel, particularly public one, if you think it's too sensitive, it's okay to make a private posting. Does private posting support it, right? But don't do this. Do the public postings in responsible way. Hopefully this help other people also, right? Okay, next 2 weeks, we're gonna talk about Bomblab. So Bomblab, again, we're gonna talk about this Bomblab later in detail. But Bomblab challenge is a little bit different from exploitations. It's just a puzzle, but it's a bomb. So if you made a mistake, your score will be deducted. So you should be extra cautious about handling this bomb. In fact, bomb is just a binary. But again, how we know this binary is actually exploded or not? Think about how creatively you can solve these challenges by yourself. Right? We have a regular deadline of a week starting from today, so that you have to submit the challenges of each phases and each challenges of the bomb, like 10, right? Before this deadline. And today we're going to talk a little bit about what is Bomblab over the structure, and I'm going to give you a quick introduction of GDB. It's a debugger that you have to use for next 2 weeks very intensively. While navigating through GDB, I'm going to talk about how to read x86 32-bit assembly as well. And as part of this tutorial, we're going to solve a crack me challenges today. So for some reason, if you don't have laptops and whatnot, approach us. We're going to find some spare laptops in our group as well. So this is a flag. It's nothing but the ASCII characters. It's the hexa characters. But as you can see, the content is encrypted. But it contains lots of interesting information. When the flag was gained, who got this flag, what are the contexts around, what are the computing at the time, all sorts of information we squeezed together in this flag, so that we know what challenges you solve. So if you just submit this flag, we know what challenge you solve. And at this time, what type of payload is an essential payload is encoded together with this, so that we can see how you guys behave differently, work differently. So when we say submitting flag, just copy paste the entire ASCII character and paste to our submission site. There's nothing more than that. Okay? So these are the bomb. If you launch the bomb, then it asks your API key. So you can get the API key when you register our course in the submission site. And as part of this tutorial, you're going to do this all together as well by following all this tutorial. And you will have to create your account in our submission site and do the crack me challenges together, right? But this is the first challenge, meaning that find the answer. It's pretty simple, right? But you cannot just guess because it explodes. You have to be very cautious about what's inside the bomb in static way. If you like, you can tinker with the dynamic way as well, but just running and tinker with it. But find a way to create a safe environment to tinker with, right? So whenever you bomb exploded, you know what's going to happen. This is a big warning. Every single year, we're gonna get the email about, hey, I mistakenly exploded the bomb. Yeah, you were dead, right? Your scores got deducted. So nothing we can do about those. It's machinery, right? We're not asking you to explode the bomb. Don't explode the bomb. You're gonna make a lot of mistakes. It actually teaches you how to deal with this static binary. So whenever you execute the binary, in the operating system, you basically give all the permission to the binary, which it can access every single files in your systems. You download arbitrary binary, what are you going to do? You execute, and you're doomed. Your SSH key is read, can be read, all the cookies in browsers can be read. You already give full trust to the binary. So think about this situation. You got this weird binary, and how can I understand the behavior of this binary? The first thing you're gonna do, likely, one typical way people are doing this way, hey, I download the binary from the internet, I put it to the VM and execute, right? It's a safe, because it doesn't have access to my files outside of the VM. This is nice sandbox, right? Sometimes when you're dealing with some binary that behave very aggressively or very hostile manner, then they detect the VM and behave differently. If you run inside the VM, you pretend it's a normal editor, but if you execute outside, you say malware. You start creating the ransom, right? Start encrypting your file because now he has permission, right? Think about how to understand the Bomblab in the context of this malware analysis. In fact, you can do anything you want because you have complete access to the binary. But this binary requires internet access, but otherwise it's not working. This is how we track this bomb. You are making proper progress in the bomb. Whenever you make a mistake, you file event to our server that we got notified. But think about it. There are many different ways to prevent those. Be imaginative. Alright. As part of the tutorial, I'm gonna navigate you through the GDB and through the correct me challenges in the tutorial, right? And this is how you're gonna do the tutorial, but you don't have to do right now. But I'm gonna navigate you together how to use GDB first and how to read assembly. Okay, this is the server that you have to log in for the tutorial. And as you can see, Lec01 user ID is user ID for the Lec01 challenges. So you're gonna log in, you're gonna see a bunch of challenges in Lec01. In this case, Bomblab and tutorial, right? Similarly for the Lec2, you can log in, but we didn't release the password yet. So you can see those passwords in edge discussions and Canvas as well. So we're gonna release. So when are you gonna release? Right after this class or before? It's already released. Okay, we're gonna regularly release those passphrase for newer challenges as well. Yes.
Is there a way to like that's the main server, right? Is there a way to download the challenge?
Oh, that's a good question. We in fact provide all the tutorial that you can create your local environment. For example, if you go to this game node page in our course website, you see how to register, and this is a way to access our server, and this is how to build a local environment. So we have a complete image that contains those binary as well. You can just, I think you can download and set up, to follow those tutorials to set up yourself. No, for the challenges as well. You can set up the environment and then download the challenges in your local.
Okay, sure. But let's just assume I run the Bomblab, that would still ask the API key. So if I blow up the bomb in the local lab, it's still affecting my score, right?
Figure out. Right? Bomb is a little bit different challenges. This is the only unique aspect because it requires online component, right? So you give me the API key, right, to the Bomblab. Bomblab has an internet connection. It doesn't matter you have it in the VM or not, right? But the flag that you're getting in your VM is not the flag. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna see that whenever you get the flag inside your VM, it say this is not flag. So it's not the flag that you're gonna submit. You're gonna know what I'm talking about later, right? But I'm gonna show you as part of the tutorial. Okay, any other questions before we go further? Oh, sorry. Yep. Any other questions? Okay, if you log into Lab1, little bigger. Okay. just do back and forth. Let me log in once more. Yeah, if you type and log in, you're gonna see these welcome messages, related information. Yeah.
Can we change our username after we register?
What is it?
Can we change our username after we register?
I think you cannot change your username. It's a one-time thing. Why, you don't like your username? I forgot.
It's a hard decision.
Okay. But do not spend your week. Once you log into our server, you're gonna see these welcome messages. In fact, you are UID Lec01, right? You have the user ID is a permission in the operating system in the Linux world, and you have to get the flag with this UID on the corresponding binary that we install. It means that whenever you get the flag with certain UID on the binary, it recognizes you so that inside the flag we know you actually solve the challenges on the particular binary, right? In this case, you can see I'm the UID 1001, is basically Lec01. If you get the, for example, you log into the VM, get the flag, your of course your flag is of course different. We generate those flags on the fly, but at the same, all these configurations are different, so we can easily recognize you. For example, these are the this is a simply file under probe flag. This is the flag that you have to submit, right? If you can, you can get a flag. But of course, you cannot submit this because it doesn't have proper UID and the challenges that you attach to, right? But certain challenges, including our tutorial, is especially crafted. For example, if you go to tutorial directory, hard to see. Is it enough? I think the color is too dark. Anyhow, if you go to tutorial, these are tutorial directory, tutorial 1, crank me. You can see 4 challenges that we prepare. We are asking you to get the flag out of this crank me challenge, right? 0. And this is marked in the weird color, right? Because it's a specially set file we call sendUID file. So whenever you execute those, it lifts your permissions in the UID. Now current your UID is 1001, and your UID which is reflected to the crank me challenge. So with the crank me challenge, you should get the flag with the particular UID that we assign to crank me challenge here. So if you ls, you can see this specially assigned UID on the crank me and on the Lec01 group. And with the S flag at the beginning of the permission here. So other files starting with the X, right? But this one started with S, RWS, it means sendUID binary. It's a very special binary in Linux systems. We just leverage them in a way that we can distinguish you guys each other. But today's challenges, again, we're gonna read the crank me challenges, right? In fact, there's no space you can write in this particular home directory. So if you want to store something, you have to create in under temporary directory in the Linux operating system. So in this case, say so I say this is a special directory that I like to work on. I'm gonna create, and I can move to this special directory that I created. And you can see this one is kind of password or special token, so that if somebody knows this directory, then any other people can see as well. Please don't make a reasonable guess on those. Right? If you want, other people just put and read as well, and you can copy those crank me binary here and do tinkering as well. If you want to modify, you can modify and do whatever you are in this directory, but make sure that your modifications and stories cannot be seen by other people as well, right? But we don't need those directory in this tutorial. So assuming you have these crack me challenges, how would you understand the behavior of this binary? Any guess? Any suggestion?
This is executing.
What?
This is executable.
Yeah, that's a good guess. You execute, but again, similar to the Bomblab or malware and ransomware, you're going to be screwed. But in fact, running the binary itself, you have a pretty good idea of what binary is doing. In fact, before you run this, you kind of have a good idea of what binary is for, because that's why you got this binary and want to run, right? There is an expected behavior of the binary or program. In this case, the binary is a total binary. You say crack me, so we're gonna crack them, right? So execute them, you can see how this works. We say print out the banner, ask for the password. Anything you're gonna do? Guess the password, right? So put dumb password, it's a invalid password. In order to get the flag, you have to provide the right password. Then this binary will read the proc flag file and dump it to you, so that you can actually submit this flag as part of the submission side. But again, these are the easier part of the lab, first 2 weeks. Most likely we're gonna read the flag for you and dump it to you, so that you can submit. But later phase of the class, starting from the second week, starting from the third week, you actually have to change the behavior of the binary in a way that they can read the binary. You have to read the binary by yourself. You have to read the proc flag by yourself by changing the control flow of the program. This is what we mean by binary exploitation. This crack me challenge assume is not designed to read proc flag file. But because of the vulnerability inside, you change the control flow of this program that developer is intended to encode, and it doesn't even know what is proc flag or doesn't even have a capability to read file. But you change their behavior in a way that you achieve whatever you want. What we mean exploitation. In our class, in order to prove yourself that you actually hijack the control flow of the binary, you're gonna read the proc flag and dump it to your screen and copy one, submit to our submission side. Is it clear? So, is there any other guess how to find the right password? Yes?
Could we try running through GDB?
Yeah, we can put the GDB and try to understand their behavior. It's one thing, right? But most of the time, running this binary is not ideal. We often do static way to dump what's inside the binary with the many different tools. Today, we're gonna see you how to dump this binary in basically disassemble the binary so that you can see each instructions within the binary. And by reading them, you can kind of understand their behavior, right? So in this case, you can dump with the object dump. You can specify what type of assembly output that you're going to expect. In this case, there are two different AT&T and Intel type of format for assembly in x86. I'm familiar with the AT&T style, but most of the people in the world like Intel. So I recommend to use Intel because it's common standard for among the hacker as well. But if you're writing system software, they prefer AT&T like style or GAS right now. So specify what type of representation output, in this case Intel, and then you can specify the disassembly request. So by putting -d, you can say I like to disassemble this binary, particular text section. And then you can see what's inside the binary. These are the code, the instruction that they're gonna run, they're gonna execute whenever you run the binary. So there is a specific, I'll say, symbol assigned. In this case, the init likely function contain this list of binary, a list of instructions. What are the first functions that you're gonna write in C? Main. This binary contain main. So when binary is originally launched, then the loader or dynamic linkers in Linux type of operating system try to prepare the memory space for the binary that you're going to execute and bind or load the necessary library associated with it. Everything is encoded in this binary, so that we call this binary format as ELF in Unix-like systems, Mac and macOS, or PE and in Windows. They have their own specific type of representations and how to organize a binary so that loader can understand the requirement of the binary and load it to the memory space, right? So in this particular case, binary contain a particular instruction pointer that loader should start execute the binary. Given this binary, we don't know where to execute even. These are a bunch of instruction set, right? Instructions inside where to start. The binary format, in this case ELF, specify entry point of this binary. So in order to see those, so we're going to talk about this internal later, but in order to parse the ELF format, so binary is just a bit block. You have to organize the binary in a way that we can actually understand the structure, right? Some binary is big, some binary is small, and some binary have different requirements. So everything is encoded as part of this format, so ELF. In this case, we can read the ELF by specifying -h. We like to dump the header of the ELF. In this case, it contains good information. It's mostly primitive information that is required for dynamic linker to prepare the memory space for exposure. Most interesting part of this information is entry point. So this particular one that you can see in the screen, this is entry point of the binary. You load the binary, again, dynamic linker and loader, prepare the code sections and data sections accordingly, and change the instruction pointer right there. And this is the first instruction the program will execute. Your CPU will execute in order to execute this binary. So remember this 4E0, and we're gonna search this particular place in the binary as well. Was it 480? 4E0? Yeah, okay. This is the entry point of this binary. Again, after this binary loaded to the memory, instruction pointer will point to this particular place and start executing. Right? This is called start. Unfortunately, not interesting thing in the start. In fact, the first program that developer wrote is the code inside the main function. It's not start. The start is typically required, very tedious, and most of the binary have exact same starting instructions. It basically get some information from the operating systems, like how many arguments they have, and invoke a libc functions. And some of the initialization function of the libc, and libc functions will execute your main function that provided in this context. In this case, in fact, later phase you're gonna learn how to navigate those by yourself. But believe it, so there's a special move instruction next to EAX, in this case here. This pointing to the main functions and as argument, so that when libc start main executed, this is the function provided by the libc, and libc get this address of the main and start executing for you. So let's go to the 6A3, and as you can see, this is the main function, right? After some preliminary initializations of the program start executing these main functions. We're gonna read these main functions through GDB so that you can see how these behave more closely. But this is the overall structure of the program. Whenever main function return back to the libc, do the destruction like executing some of the hooks in the fini and whatnot. You don't have to know the detail. And then they terminate the entire program accordingly. But the main typically is the very first function you have to check in steady way. And this one likely encodes some of the logics of the correct me binary. Okay? Any questions so far? No? So how many people actually use GDB before? Good. Georgia Tech offer any class? What? InfoSec class? Oh, cool. Yeah, intro to InfoSec. Okay. If you're familiar with the system programming, like writing operating system, you should use GDB, but we are using GDB in a little bit weird way, writing some malicious exploitations against them. But GDB is so primitive, right? It's good for debugging purpose, not good for writing exploitation. But for this week, we're gonna focus on the plain GDB, how this works fundamentally. And then starting from next week, we're gonna provide a very fancy plugin so that you can make this one tool for exploitation writing rather than debugging the program, right? So, but for now, let's use GDB as it is. If you run the GDB with the program name, like GDB specify the program that you want to execute, you simply launch the program as my child and attach enable like tracing capability of operating systems. In this case, in the Linux operating system, there's a ptrace infrastructure. So you launch the program as a child. You can request them at the beginning of the program that I'm gonna trace this particular child as a parent. That you can do single stepping of those. Not only that, you can request them events whenever it executes a system calls. So as a debugger, with a parent process, you have a chance to get those notifications. And whenever you got the notification, you kind of can read the memory of the child or write, or you can do whatever you want. Change the register value and whatnot. And this is how GDB typically work, how GDB work. If with the GDB, you can do a bunch of other interesting stuff. You can set the debug breakpoint. You can programmatically check the memory space and read. All these fancy stuff can happen in this primitive API, the operating system program. So in this case, if you launch the GDB with the path of the child, it executes this Crank Me challenge as a child and start tracing one by one, right? At this point, we haven't launched the Crank Me challenge yet. So here, there's many chances you can modify the condition of the child invocation, like changing environment variables, with some settings and whatnot. But here, simple way to execute this binary is just execute R. You can type run, or you can type R. So every first character of the command can be just accepted in GDB. So it's the same thing. If you type run or R, it actually run the binary. So in this case, you can see the program just run as expected, right? Then how to start debugging? Any idea? So what program is doing right now? So we launch the child, and we run the child process. Stop. What's happening right now? Anyone can explain? Yes?
Waiting for user input.
Exactly. The child is simply waiting for user's input. What can we do to stop this program? What? What is it? Yeah, setting a breakpoint is one thing, but here we already executed. Exactly. You can send a signal to the child process so that whenever you send the signal, and this one triggers some of the event handler in the parent process through whatever ptrace infrastructures in Linux, so that we can now examine their memory space. So if you press Ctrl+C, this is a Ctrl+C mark in the password, we stop somewhere. Where is it? Anyone have good idea? It's a kernel v system call. Any idea? You're gonna see those type of function name and symbols all over the places. It basically they're pulling inside the system calls, and they send the signal so that we can interrupt the execution at the moment. This is part of the code that the libc provide. So here, in order to see this, you can type BT or backtrace. The backtrace basically read the layout of the stack, resolve the symbol accordingly, and dump here. Okay, every binary has associated with it with the debugging symbol most of the time. Particularly this week. Next week we are not going to provide the even debugging symbol. But again, most of the time your system libraries and the binary that you're compiling have a debugging symbol so that we can nicely resolve the corresponding name given an instruction point. In this case, so because the crank me challenge is waiting and we interrupt them, at that moment of the time, the stack contain these list of calls. You can consider this nested calls, or in the fancy word, you can say activation method or frame, but it's just a sequence of call that you're invoking. The last function that this program invokes is kernel based syscall. You might see some of the read, right? You can see read in the second line. This is the most recent code that program execute. This is the second most one. What is the read? Anyone guess? Yeah?
It's reading from a file descriptor.
Yeah, it's a system call that read the file content from the file descriptor. In fact, this read is provided by these libc functions. In this case, this guy, right? This is a libc library, and this library that contain a specific system call function for i386. i386 is the architecture we're gonna discuss this week. These are 32-bit architectures. In fact, it's too old. Nobody actually had. No one actually using this one in modern world, other than IoT devices and whatnot. Your machine is 64-bit architecture, but 64-bit architecture has a compatibility mode that executes the 32-bit binary. But we're gonna first talk about 32-bit binary because it's interesting enough, and then switching from next week, we're gonna talk about 64-bit architecture, right? Without any symbols. So you're not gonna see all these nice messages unlike this way. But in fact, this read is actually the implementation of invoking system call name read. And as part of this, libc kind of encoded the invocation of the system call with a special function named kernel B system call, right? And then what you can see in the bottom of the frame is your main, right? Main is the function that we originally wrote as a developer. And if you invoke a scanf, it's a special function in libc that read a certain format and certain user input based on some of the format specifier you provided. And then after that, rest of the code is not actually what you wrote. In fact, this is the implementation of the libc, not your program, right? As a main developer, we just wrote a main function. And inside the main function, you can imagine that we invoke scanf, and scanf inside the libc has implementation like IO buffer read and flow, underflow, whatnot, and then ultimately invoke the system call, and system call invoke a common stop functions, in this case, kernel based system call. You can see the structure of the program in this way. It seems very complicated, right? It's complicated. In the middle of this class, you even know how to exploit these structures in the libc, particularly IO-related as well. So the program is waiting. What we can do here, we know the depth of this program, and we are in the top of the frame, the latest system call, right? In fact, you can move the frame so that you can navigate those easily. You can call up so that we change the context to the next one, right? Like those, or you can change your context to up and down. So in each frame of stack, you can kind of navigate their contents inside pretty easily in this way. So at the moment, you can also navigate various other things, like dumping the register value. In this case, you can do info register, then it will dump the corresponding register contents here. And in fact, this is the register value at the moment that we send the interrupt to the program at the system call functions in libc. So let's navigate what's inside these main functions, right? In order to do this, we have a special formatting node. This is weird and very geeky, but very convenient. X stands for examine, as far as I remember correctly, and then you specify the format, how many characters you want, how many units of print you're going to do, and then specify the formatting that you want. In this case, I specify I, which stands for instruction. In this case, I like to examine 10 instructions, and then you're going to provide a instruction pointer. In fact, you can provide a data pointer too, but try to interpret those data pointer SAD based on what you commented, right? In this case, we know the one data pointer which pointing in the main functions, right? In this case, specify those. You can see these are the return address of the call inside the Scanf. You can even see right after the Scanf, right? These are the places that will be returned back from main, returned back from Scanf, and the main will execute it starting from there, right? You can continue to debug in this way, but let's just do a fancier one. So we're gonna set the breakpoint on the main and start re-executing this program. See if we actually break in the main, we're gonna examine their memory space, right? In order to set the breakpoint, yes?
Can this instruction use with a pointer instead of just the address?
The pointer instead of what?
Instead of just directly putting the address, can you use a pointer in that case?
Oh, sorry, I don't get the question. Could you repeat one more?
Instead of directly putting the address there,
Uh-huh.
you use a pointer, so the pointers pointing to certain areas and example.
Oh, that's a good question. So you can directly dereference those pointers as well. For example, this is a pointer pointing to some place. Then you can actually read. In this case, you can provide a reference pointer in front so that you can actually chase it. In this case, if you specify that you try to read the data inside this pointer and then try to interpret after, try to chase after. I'm gonna show you later how it works. Right? So here we're gonna set the breakpoint. So first we're gonna set the breakpoint on the main. In order to do this, you can set the break main. In this case, break stands for BR stands for break. So we set the breakpoint point to the main, so program will stop instead of keep executing until the Scanf. And also, you can dump the existing breakpoint that you set. In this case, we have only one breakpoint which we set for the main, right? Unfortunately, we set the breakpoint after re-executing this. Even if you continue to execute, the breakpoint never hit. So we're gonna re-execute the entire program by simply rerun. So if you type run again, you're gonna rerun the entire child process from the beginning, but keep the breakpoint. So you're gonna see the entire program hit the breakpoint at the main. You can examine those contexts as well. Right, we're gonna restart. So now we hit the breakpoint. So we now have a complete control at the moment, so that you can either dump the register value. You can dump all the register value, but we are interested in the stack pointer and instruction pointer. In this case, you can dump the register with the instruction pointer or just IP. No? Yeah, you have to specify exact name. In this case, E stands for extended IP. When we say IP, it's all legacy. So we're starting from 16-bit computer. So when we append E, it's called extended, meaning that extended to 32-bit. But nobody using 32-bit even, right? So that we have a special register called R. So in order to dump the instruction pointer in the particular register, nowadays, starting from next week, you're going to specify RIP. But these are all pointing to the same register in your computer. In this case, we specify EIP, so that these are the instruction pointer that the PC, the program counter, pointing to the memory space running. So let's see it actually waiting in the main. So do you see arrow in the left side? In fact, they are not stopping at the main. It's stopping after they setting up the context. It's sometimes weird when you're tracing every single instructions by yourself. But this is very convenient for debugging because it skips uninteresting part of their part as a developer. So we typically set the breakpoint main and navigate those. But in this particular case, let's set the breakpoint to the rear beginning of the main. So instruction pointer now pointing to the main plus 6, which after they setting up the frame point, right? But we like to see how this main works at the beginning by setting the breakpoint at the beginning. Okay. In order to do this, we have to provide a special syntax. So by providing star in front of it, we say we're gonna set the breakpoint in this address, where the address is pointing to. Here, because we set the breakpoint to, if you type info breakpoint, you're gonna see 2 different breakpoints, right? And then we're gonna re-execute this program again. Let's delete the breakpoint that we are not interested in. So in order to delete, you say delete and specify the number of the breakpoint. In this case, 1, which is the first breakpoint that we set it. It's a main function after prefix. So we delete it. So we only have a 1 breakpoint that pointing to exact location of the main, right? And we execute this program, and now we stop. In this case, let's check. Let's dump the main. We are at the right, very first instructions of the main. In this case, push. Anyone who has an idea what's going on the push? Why the very first instruction is push? What is for? Yes? Exactly. What is base point? Base point. So could you explain what's the purpose of having base pointer at the first place? Exactly. So with the base pointer basically point the base of your frame is a local context. So when you're writing when compiler compile the program, they assign the local variable based on the base pointer, so that they can easily refer to the correct locations of local variables, like buffer, for instance, right? But in fact, you can easily compile. Nowadays, it's not a good convention to have this base pointer. Base pointer is amazing in a way that you can organize a stack, right? And it make it very easy to debug the entire program. But in fact, there is a performance overhead associated with it. Whenever you organize a stack, you have to use those frame point. But common convention these days is not having this base pointer. But if we're having base pointer, it's a standard practice in 32-bit binary. In this case, EBP. Let me draw how this works. So when you launch the program has a address space, like complete address space. Starting when we say 32-bit, right? Program has access to the memory space starting from 0 to the 32-bit. So 32-bit basically represent the width of the bus, the address, which means you have 2 to the 32 amount of space you can refer to. These are the virtual address space you own as a program. So when we draw those type of memory space, we draw starting from the beginning to the end. meaning that so assuming this is a stack space, and stack space starting with the lower address space, say these are the top of the stack starting with the 0, and it's typically the bottom of the stack. Let's see, right? Starting with FFF. Basically, you can imagine 2 to the 32 minus 1, right? You can see FFFF, right? With the 32 bit. These are the memory space that you own, and loader will load the program accordingly. Let's see how this program is actually loaded inside your memory space. In order to do this, you can type info. So as you can see, info basically information is about the child D, all right, children process. There are a bunch of commands you can do after. In this case, info probe mapping, and these are the map. But these are the allocated memory space or usable memory space that we allocated for the child process. In fact, there are a bunch of reasons, right? But ignore all this like address starting with this F. You can imagine this is almost the end of the memory space, right? But these are usually for libc library and system library that the binaries rely on. And we are interested in the developer provide one, malicious one, in this case the binary itself, not the system library that you provide to the binary, right? And there are a bunch of interesting parts like BDSO, VVAR. These are the special type of region that kernel provide to you, to the library, libc, so that they can optimize things away. But there are two big interesting parts. The beginning of this program is a 3 crack me 00, right? You can see the top 3. Oh, out of battery. Does anyone has charger that I can quickly, MacBook charger? It's because you're recording. Before that. No, that's not. Yeah. The watt is not powerful. No. Good. Okay. 3 memory regions at the beginning contain a specific region of the binary, right? That's starting with the code sections and data sections, and I'll say heap space and BAA section. These are uninitialized memory region of the program. These are the special sections that contained in the binary itself. Okay, we're going to talk about them later, but don't panic. And there's just another special one that the focus of today is a stack memory region. Here, you can see the beginning of the memory region contain the binary, the code sections and data type, and later we have a stack frame, the memory region for the stack. You can imagine that here, the certain region starting with 8, basically crack me challenge, the binaries. In fact, it has 3 different memory regions that loader allocated to. There's a special region called stack, right? These stack regions, when we typically talk about stack growing upward or downward, this is very confusing, right? The convention here in this class, stack grows up. So whenever you push additional information, additional entry to the stack, it grows 1 slot up. In this case, once you push, push EBP, so stack behave, the stack pointer will change like those, from here to here. And we're gonna occupy 1 slot in the stack memory region, right? Say push EBP, then we're gonna have EBP in this location. Okay? Everyone is on the same page? Okay. typically EBP pointing to the previous stack frame. In this case, somewhere in the bottom, right? At the moment that you're gonna do push EBP, in fact pointing to the bottom of the frame, the previous frame, so that in fact you can construct the frame in this way. But at the beginning of the program, which is launched from the libc, they don't set the frame pointer. But as a convention, as a recent changes in Linux. But as a recent convention, in fact, you can imagine that even the very first stack pointer pointing to the previous stack frame in this way. Let's see how it works. Right, we are at the beginning of the main functions, right? Here, and let's dump the stack. Stack can be dumped in similar way. In this case, W. So there are many weird formatting rules. We're going to do the examine. 10 means we're going to print out 10 slots. X mean in the hexa representation. There are many representations like ASCII, characters, digit, whatever, right? There are many things. And then you're going to specify the size. The word size, basically, word and D word, depending on how you see, they're just representing 32 bits in this architecture. There are many other, like B for byte, S for, S is different, short for whatever, H, and then W for word, and Q for, G for giant, word. Everyone's using different word, but this is a convention in GDB. It's a weird, wrong decision, but it's what they're doing. XW means we're gonna dump the hexa character in the 4 bytes. As you can see, starting from this stack, you can see the sequence of 10 elements in the stack, right? These are the frame that libc star main, the libc function in the libc was using, right? Now we're gonna create our own frame. So by pushing EBP, let's execute this push instruction. See, we are pointing here. We are not yet execute first instruction. We're gonna execute the first instruction by type step instruction. Type step I, or most people just type SI, right? We're gonna do the step I. So we in fact execute. Let's dump. Right? Now we just execute the first instruction. The instruction pointer point to the next. Again, second instruction is not yet executed. Right? What's the impact of the first instruction? Anyone? So we now have a change in stack. If you see the content inside the stack, the additional element 0 was it put in because because the EBP register contains just 0. So we put it 0 at top of the stack. So in here, you can imagine the EBP now 0, right? And stack pointer now pointing to 1 slot up. So in this case, pointing here, right? So what's next instruction? So it's annoying to keep typing this, right? People typically set the display commands in GDB. Say, so by typing this, the display command will just keep displaying whenever it stops. So if you execute next instruction, you're going to display. After display command is the same rule as examine and instruction pointer. In this case, EIP. So EIP is special register name. So in order to refer the content, you can specify the $sign inside, right? Because the instruction pointers keep changing. So let's execute this move instruction. What is this move instruction for? Any guess? Exactly. Now instruction pointer, stack pointer pointing to the top of the stack. Now we're gonna update the instruction pointer because we just saved it, right? After this, we have this shape of so EBP now pointing to the top of the stack, right? It's as simple as that. So let's execute next instruction. See, keep dumping the same thing, right? What is this instruction for? Any guess? Yes?
It actually makes very instant
Exactly. By subtracting them, again, stack grows like upward, and somebody say go downward. I don't like it. I say it's go upward because now we reserve additional space, or because the mem address decrease. And you can see here, what is a OX10? How many slots in stack? What? No, it means 10 as a hex, 16 bytes. How many unit of the stack? 4, because we are talking about like 32-bit architecture in 4 bytes, right? These are units are bytes. So memory address is everything is bytes. In this case, hex representation 10 means 16, and divide by 4 is a 4 slot. So we now reserve additional 4 slot in the stack. So let's execute this guy, right? And then, as you can see, let's delete this guy. Oh. So we just reserve 4 additional slots. And then ESP now pointing to the top. Like those. So we have 4 additional slots that you can place into. What's inside? Any guess? Do you want to dump in the GDB? So we're gonna dump. These are the contents in stack. There's something inside. We know starting from here, this is the EBP that we push in the frame. This is a return address that invoke main. What are these 4 contents inside the stack? Anyone? These are some of the uninitialized value from the previous invocation and previous use of the stack. But we still have access to because they're in the stack, right? You can imagine the libc star main functions invoke a bunch of other calls during the initialization. They start using the whole lot of space in the stack, and these are the leftover value. Sometimes you need those values to understand what's going on. Sometimes you use those values to exploit your program too. But these are the contents that normal program should never access, right? If you wrote the program that do not have any bug, there's no way you can access this program in the legitimate way. But as a hackers, you can bypass those logics, start leveraging those values inside. But again, in the legitimate code, there's no way you can access those memories. So we now reserve the stack where we are right now. This is a place that we're gonna push and call a particular function, the put. Can you see the put in the call instructions? We're first gonna push some constant, it looks like pointer, pointing to the binary that we just loaded. Or otherwise, the rest of the binaries are memory regions are from the libc, right? This memory region that we have this pointer pointing to a memory region of the binary. And then it invokes a put function. Anyone know what is a put function in libc? Yeah, it's print. Simply put string. So it's a put. It's weird name, right? I don't know why they do all these shortcut, but put string. So they're gonna put the string out of your screen, right? On the other hand, in order to get those string from the user, you say get zip, like get string. At a long time ago, everything was terminal. It's all the residue of arcade behavior, but put simply print out the string to the string, basically get the string from the terminal. This is very important piece of code. This is how we invoke a function in x86 32-bit architecture by putting additional value on the stack, and we're gonna pass as argument. So we're first gonna put all the argument in the stack. By invoking them, we're gonna inform the callee that these are the list of the argument that you're gonna put. In this case, put will invoke with particular addresses a stack. So let's go to the call. So we are about to call this these put functions. Let's check what's inside the stack. Right? This one is put on top. Any people what have a good guess of what it is? Yeah, it's a string. It should be a string. So one of the banner in this case, we can say examine one string, so that instead of dumping as hexa characters, you can specify how many string that you want to dump. In this case, 1s. So this is the banner you saw when you're executing the binary. So by executing put, they're gonna print out this one in the program. At this point, we use another slot of the stack with the push, and this is the argument of the put, right? And we are about to call the put function. Yes?
Actually, right now, it says just if there are functions that have multiple arguments, how is that work?
So if you have a multiple argument, you're gonna push multiple times. So you're gonna see that one particular case in the later disassembly. Anyone know what's gonna happen when we execute these call instructions in x86? Anyone? Yes?
The parameters is saved on the stack and it comes to the second. That's how the stack is. Like stack and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It comes out and comes in.
Yep. So basically, if you invoke the call, you change the instruction pointer, right? As in name said. But because it's calling, we're gonna store the corresponding return address, which basically right after my instruction, when you're jumping back to returning back from the callee to myself, this is a new instruction pointer that you have to change, right? In this case, take a look on the stack frame, right? We're gonna execute this one instruction. In fact, we just invoked the call instruction, and what's happening in the stack? Okay. Anyone guess what it is? Top of the stack. This is a return address. It's right after the call instruction, right? What is this one? This one is the banner string, the first argument of the put. Because of the call, after we executing the call instruction, the CPU calculate the next instruction pointer, the instruction that you have to return back, right? And put on top of the stack. And we change the instruction pointer to the destination, the first argument of the call instruction. Makes sense? We are now in the put, and we like to return back to the instructions right after call. So in order to do this, we can specify this command, finish. It's a weird name. We're gonna finish the execution of the current frame, return back. So see, we just return back to the previous one. In fact, this is the instruction right after we invoke. See, this is the instruction right after the call functions of the put, right? This is the instructions we calculate, and then the part of the call instructions to put on the top. And by returning back from the callee, they took these instructions and popped the stack so that stack now has a clean state, as if we actually executed until the call instruction. So let's dump the stack. So what is this one? Guess? What? Yeah, it's a string, right? So again, by returning back, we took the return address from the top of the stack, which we put as part of the call instruction. We consume as part of the return instruction, and we now have the argument that we prepare. Interesting enough, what's the next instruction? It add up the stack address, which means we're gonna rewind the stack in a way that we're gonna remove the argument that we just put it as part of the call, right? Here, after the call instruction, we're gonna have exact same address layout in the stack, but after we do add stack pointer and forward, we're gonna change this one, add up, right? And now our stack pointer pointing to here, and we consume this guy. Did I delete? Yeah. So after the add instruction, now stack pointer pointing to the clean state that we prepare, right? Think about this. In order to invoke external functions, we prepare by putting additional argument to the stack, call, and clean it up, right? Stack now still has the original allocations of the local variable. In this case, 4 slot, right? And this is where we are. And we're gonna invoke another functions, in this case, printf. Anyone guess what's going on in the push instruction? What?
It's the password.
Exactly, it's a password string. Because we're gonna print it out. See? It's a password. Isn't it weird that previously we called the push, put, now printf? Any guess? Yes?
Is it because you want to have the input right after it in the same line?
Exactly. So in this case, whenever we execute the put functions, you see actual output, right? Let's see what's happening after we execute this printf. So we can do stepping every single time, but in fact there is a better command called advance. We're gonna advance to certain instruction pointer. Say right after cleaning up. Let's say this guy. Is that right? Yeah, this guy. So we're gonna jump to here and see what's gonna happen. We stopped. In fact, we execute the printf, but it didn't print it out. So it's still the password string is still stay in the buffer because we didn't flush out. The put, on the other hand, print out the character immediately right after the end of the string. The put is stay in the buffer yet, not yet flush. But whenever you do flushing related operation, they're gonna flush for you, so that they have an impact of side effect of putting the consoles and password at the same time. Right? This is where we are. We invoke the second printf, so that we now have a banner, we now have a prompt. What should we do next? Invoking scanf. Scanf is basically accepting user's input, but the first argument of the scanf is a format specifier. You should specify what type of input you're gonna get, like string, integers, and whatnot. So here, similarly, we're gonna prepare the argument. In this case, multiple argument in this case. Anyone guess what's going on this line? This is the most interesting instruction today. Well, there are a few others, but anyhow. What's happening? What does the LEA stand for? Yeah. Yeah, load effective address. In architecture class, they all talk about LEA, right? Stupid name. And this break is just effective address and physical address. These are all the chaotic, I would say, history. Just loading address, right? In fact, they're not actually loading contents inside the address that you specify, unlike it seems in the bracket. In fact, exactly the same as a move. You're gonna copy the EBP minus 10 hex into the EAX. In fact, effectively load the effective address from EBP minus 10 hex to EAX. Right? What is this EBP minus 10 hex? Yes? In this frame, do you remember 10 hex we saw before? Yeah, starting from EBP here. See here? 10x here. In fact, this is the location of local variable. What's for? It's a buffer. So starting from this address, we're gonna put the content, right? So let's go to the invocation of here, Scanf. Let's check the stack. There are two arguments. This guy, the first argument of the Scanf, guess what? Anyone who can guess what it is? Format specifier. In this case, %s. Meaning that I like to get the C string to the buffer that we just specify. What is this guy? No, it's not string. What is this guy? Location of the stack. So here, we put two arguments, right? One argument. So we push 2 times in order to invoke the scanf. The first argument of the scanf point to somewhere that point to the %s, right? The second argument is in fact stack, pointing to the stack, in this case buffer, here, right next to it, right? Looks weird. Here, pointing to the beginning of the stack, here, okay? So now two arguments. The scanf, by accepting this %s, they're gonna read the input from the user, put the content here, right? Let's execute this one. So let's set the breakpoint after cleaning up, no, after this. So they're gonna wait. Now finally print out the password. Say you're gonna input it AAA BBB. That's intentional. It's a 4 bytes and 4 bytes, so total 8 bytes. We're gonna put this guy. Execute and return back from the scanf. Let's check what's going on in the stack. Any interesting changes? The first two are argument, right? One is format specifier %s. Second one is the second argument. In this case, pointing back to the next element in the stack, right? Buffer. Anything interesting? Exactly. These are the A character, the ASCII representation of your character. So see, this is the buffer pointing to, in this case here, right? See, if you print out this, say this is the input that you put. The entire character that you put it through the console now stay in the buffer in the local stack. In here, what we just did, because of the print scanf, figured out the location of the buffer and start putting AAA, BBB. What about this content? Any idea? Yeah, they're not gonna touch this one. But if there's one caveat, there is a null character in the whenever say C string, is a weird convention of the C that every character, every C string, legitimate C string ends with the null character. In fact, after AAA, BBB, there is an extra character called null character, it's just 0 value. Will be put it at the beginning of the stack. In this case here, if you consider in this order, this location will be considered 0, right? In sequence. but there is an impact of little endian, so that if you read this one, in fact, the least significant byte will be 0. Okay? So we now, yes?
So what happens if you add 16
What is it?
So if we added 16 letters, there wouldn't be space for a character. So what would
That's a great question. This is what we're gonna do for third week. Not just 16 character, you can put arbitrary number of characters, right? So that you can squash all the interesting values in the local stack and pretend you can make the program in arbitrary way. So this is what we mean by buffer overflow, right? But here is weird enough that developer assume that user can only provide the character up to 15, including null by 16, right? This is a wrong assumption. User, as a user of this binary, they can put arbitrary amount of the string, so that they can modify, again, interesting value like return address, so that you can change the control flow. Okay, so far we invoke the scanf and get the user's input, right? Let's clean up the space. Why there is a 8 instead of 4 in this case? Guess? Why 8? Yeah?
Is it because of our string input?
Yeah, because we have two, no, not because of the string we put. We put 2 arguments. Exactly. So previously we cleaned up one argument, now 2 arguments, right? So we clean up everything. So the stack just plays, we're gonna remove all of these two slots. Now stack pointer here, right? So we clean up the rest of the residue, right? So we now have user input in our local variable. This is last phase. They invoke, yes, string compare. They put one argument to the stack. We calculate the address of the buffer, which contain user's input, and put this value to the top. The first argument of the string compare is user's input. Second argument of the string compare is some values inside here. Because we will compare to a string, what would be this guy? Any guess? Exactly, this is a password. So these are the password that they're gonna compare with the user's character. If it's the same, they're gonna do something. It's different, say it's the wrong password, right? Let's go to this line. Anyone know what does the string compare function do? Yeah, it compare, but how to compare? What do you mean by comparing in string?
Does it include the characters in each one?
Yeah.
Compare them for each character?
And what would be the return value of the string compare? Yes?
The difference in ASCII values of the strings, like of every character.
Oh, different. That's an interesting way to think.
Let's see
Uh,
if it's like
Yeah, 0 if it's exact match. What about other value? Do you know the type of the string compare function? What's the type? It return integer. 0 is one good value, so everything is matched. What about other value? 1 for?
1 if it's greater, and
What do you mean by greater?
so if the one we're comparing, like first our input is lengthwise greater than the one that's already present, then it's 1.
Yes,
Otherwise, if it's smaller, then it's
exactly. But S1 should be greater or S2 should be greater? So when we typically say compare, in fact, this is again terrible design of API. Don't do this. 0 for match is weird. It's not true value, it's false value, right? But for some reason, our historic, whatever academics create this convention, they do lexical order comparison. So dictionary comparisons. Which one is showing up later? They consider S1, the first argument, more important than the second one. If the first argument is greater in terms of lexical order, then the second one will return 1, say positive value. Otherwise, return negative value. And then if it perfectly matches, it returns 0 value. Not many people can remember those, so you can say mem page by provide this bang sign, exclamation mark. You can invoke the shell command. Here, so man, it just basically describes what it means by string compare. The string compare functions compare two string S1 and S2, so argument 1 and 2. It returns an integer less than, equal to, greater than 0 if S is found respectively to be less than, to match, to greater than S2. You should fire this person who wrote this document. It's basically return 0 for the match, -1 +1, right? It's very hard to read, but this is how it functions. So what would be the return value after this guy? So let's advance to the next one. What's the return value? By the way, what do you mean by return value? Where does the return value exist? So we know how to call these functions. We never get the return value before. Exactly. What is that? We are expecting return value from the string compare. We just invoke, yeah? So base pointer will stay the same until you return back. So EBP just stay the same, but there's a convention that we're gonna leverage a special register called EAX, simply because A means the first, right? We pick this for some reason. Right, developer pick this, the architecture people pick this, and we're gonna use this one as a return value. So whenever we return back from string compare, they're gonna put this one, they're gonna use this register to indicate the return value of the callee. In fact, this one changed all over the place. Sometimes this is called application binary ABI interface. Is that right? Yeah, you call ABI. It is defined by the developers of the particular framework in the GNU libc, and most of the pretty similar. In these architectures, in this standard, we're gonna use EAX as a return value. And the convention of passing argument through stack also changed significantly across the architectures and platform as well. What if we have to, in 64 architecture we're gonna talk about next week, we're gonna pass all the argument through the register. What if we're gonna put more argument than the number of register? You should define something. Right? There are all these weird corner cases you can imagine, but this is common standard. And are you gonna pick EAS first? Or are you gonna pick ECX first? Or arbitrary, right? There's no particular theory behind those, people just decide. Here, return value exists in EAX value. What's the value in EAX? We put AAA, BBB, and then we're gonna compare with the whatever number. Guess? -1, +1? Well, we put the AAA, it show later than the number, right? It's +1? Yeah, +1. And then another interesting instruction called test. And we're gonna clean up the stack space, Y8, because we're gonna clean up 2 arguments. And then we're gonna use EAX register, which contains the return value, in this case 1. And if you read this, they're gonna do test, jump, not equal. Right? This is how you read this instruction. Anyone can explain what's going on?
Actually sets EAX to 0.
Yeah?
It's not equal, jump to the later.
It's not equal, jump to the later.
Jump to the later, otherwise you're just thinking
Yep, exactly. But what do you mean by test?
So,
What's happening after test? No? Any other guess?
It's a flag.
Check the flag register. That happened in the jump instruction. Very close. Any other? What? What? Yeah, it ends. They end EAX and EAX. The same thing, right? The same thing. What if A is 0 after N? 0. What if it's non-zero? It's non-zero. In fact, because of this, after this result of computation, they're going to update the flag, the control flag. Because if EAX is 0, then 0 flag is set. And then if it's really 0, then we say in match, then we're going to execute the password correct functions. Otherwise, say wrong, right? What do you mean by equal? Jump not equal. What do you mean not equal? Yeah?
If the two, I guess, so you're only finding one instruction, or is it two? I guess it would be saying if some two operands are equal, that it's just going to continue going. Like it's not going to execute each other. But if they're not equal, then it will go to the address specified next to it.
Mm-hmm.
So, except I think in x86 is it based on a flag or is it?
Yeah, it behaves based on the flag. 0 flag. Yeah?
So is it basically just saying if the result of the last one is not 0, then
Not
the
zero.
button
Exactly.
will stay there?
So why say equal? Not equal. So not 0, right? If it's actually the exact same thing. JNE or not and jump not 0 are two same thing. In fact, the reason they put this JNE is there is another instruction next to x86 called compare. Test is one thing, compare is another thing. Compare EAX and EAX to compare not equal to something, right? But these are exact same. So when we execute the compare instruction, instead of AND, they subtract, right? In fact, compare is exactly the same as a subtract. They subtract, update the flag based on the result. If not equal, or if equal, the 0 flag is not set. If equal, 0 flag is set, and they're not taking this branch. Otherwise, they're going to take. Right? It's,
So just to confirm, the test does an AND, but it sets a bunch of different flags, and then you can use the different flags using different jump instructions.
yes. So JNE in this case, jump if not equal to 0, or not 0. Like all these weird things, but whenever you don't know, just search the internet. What do you mean by the instruction, one by one, so that at least you really should understand, right? Are they gonna take this branch or not? Here, main plus 98 here, right? So if it's not equal or not 0, they're gonna execute this one. It's a false instruction, false branch. Any guess what it is? Incorrect password, right? We have to fall into here by setting the string by forcing string compare to return 0, so that not equal to 0, right? What about this one? So after this, we're gonna go to the later part of the main and start exiting, right? What if we provide the right one and they start executing this costly, right? This putjar is simple. Anyone? What is it? Guess what it is? Password, okay. Yes? Yes. Finally, we're gonna print the flag. Here, in order to print out the flag, we're gonna put additional context. In this case, this is also another string that we're gonna leverage in the flag. We incorporate as part of the flag. And then printf functions will indeed print out the flag for you. In fact, in the GDB, you can do whatever you want because you're controlling everything in the child D. In fact, you can invoke the printf here in many different ways. So one way is that you can actually call this print key, I guess. See, by say P, we say print and execute this function. And first argument is whatever string. Say, because we are printing this, executing this print key functions as part of the child D, as part of the GDB, we say in the lib flag. But if you really execute in the legitimate way, you're gonna get the legitimate flag. P stands for print. You can do print many things, like you can do arithmetics and whatnot, right? Print in the expression. Many other way as well, you can change the value of the register inside the GDB. In fact, you can jump right before the call lib functions. Let's try. So this is where we are. We're supposed to be jumping to where? Here, right? 98 here. Let's change the instruction pointer to here. Set EIP. See, do you see change? Now we're taking the true branch. If we execute, see, you got the flag, right? In other words, because of GDB, you can do whatever you want. So there's no reason to get the legitimate flag out of it. So another simpler way, in fact, you can dump the contents and in strings in Crack Me Challenge. And these are the strings that contain inside. If search the password, this is likely the password. Provide the right password, you got the flag. And this is you're gonna put to the submission side. Okay, you guys have any other questions? Yes?
By forcing registers one direction and forcing the branches, would this be a valid way of getting the proper flag?
Proper flag. This way, by executing without under GDB?
Well, so the only way to get the proper flag would be to execute outside of GDB.
Yes.
You cannot do what you're doing.
Oh, within the GDB you cannot do. Because we detect the existence of GDB.
So that means
Yeah, we are the kernel that provide this probe flag. We know everything what you're doing. If you can find a way to bypass, we're gonna give you A. Okay, anyone? Okay, take time and take a rest for a while to do the tutorial. We're gonna help you. Okay, thank you.